Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hashtag no music, no intro. We are back with our friend and esteemed ESPN's own Katherine Terrell.
Yes.
Saints beat reporter. It's been a while since. Do you get mad when people call you?
Wow.
Yeah. Should I not? Was
that? Wow, that's like high praise. Sorry, do I get mad when people call me what?
KT.
Oh, no, I don't care.
Okay.
That's what my friends call me.
Okay. Well,
y'all are my friends, so y'all can call me KT.
We finally met. We can finally.
I know it took as long for us to meet as it took for us to schedule a time for me to get on this podcast in the last month.
That's fine. It's been a while since you've been on the pod, and since then a lot has changed with changed with the Saints.
A little bit.
I think. Was Dennis Allen still the head coach when the last time you were on?
That's that. So at least one quarterback retired, and maybe one coach got fired. I don't know the last time I was on.
Yes.
It was probably around the time he got fired, but I don't know if it was before or after. There's a lot that happened in this past year.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's never boring, I'll tell you that.
Always something.
At least not off the field, anyway.
No. So shout out to our dude Gilk with a $10 super chat. He said, "Let KT know that she's our favorite." So there you go.
Aw, well, thank you.
Our community loves KT. You know, they love it. We do.
And can I say part of that? We don't have a script on how we go this way. I think a big part of our community, what they love about you, Katherine, is that when you are in the media room, you are a pit bull in terms of asking questions that need to be asked, and you don't back down at all, no matter what. And I think that the fans, whether it be our listeners and not just our listeners, but just Saints fans in general, respect that. Regardless of whatever answer and how brushed off you get, there's a respect and admiration that comes with that.
I mean, like, we all love our teams, right? We were talking about it before we started the podcast. You know, whatever team you root for, it's very important to you. And I mean, I always kind of try to remember that you know, a lot of Saints fans watch those press conferences. I mean, and because I just want to know what's going on with their team. And I try to remember that a large part of our job as reporters is to try to either explain things to the fans or to maybe be their voice. I try to think of it that way because, you know, obviously fans can't be in press conferences, but, you know, in this day and age, all reporters are online. So, or most of them anyway. So we see like what people are asking. And so I do feel like it's important to have a pulse on the fan base and kind of what they would want answered, even though, as you said, it often does not get answered.
Right. But sometimes it's just simple as like, you know, just a follow-up. Because, you know, it's like sometimes they have their little, you know, by the book answers that they prepared already. And you could quickly crash that just with a follow-up answer. And I always like that you'll come in quick with like but didn't you say or something? And then
write it down.
And then like,
didn't you say on November 12th that this was different? I should start writing that down, actually.
That sounds like me in my job. But like,
yeah. I should have a notepad and like flip it open, like
boom.
You know, yeah. I think 6 months ago you said this.
On this date, on this date, on such and such date, you said boom, 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 boom. Sorry, shouldn't give you ideas.
It's like just don't BS us, man. Like that's what we always say. It's like I get it. You're not gonna, you know, put everything out there. You're not gonna. It's not our business to know everything that's going on inside the building and stuff like that, especially if it doesn't pertain to actual football on the field stuff. But like Saints fans aren't dumb. Like I know there's some out there that that are just fanatics, but a lot of Saints fans really just can see what's going on. Like earlier this year, we all knew something was going on with Derek Carr. And like, you can just
Right.
see since the Super Bowl that something's going on. We don't know exactly what it is, but something's going on. So don't feed us this. Oh, everything's all just good and fine. Like no, we see something's going on. So it's just a lot of frustration from Saints fans. Sometimes it's like just be at least somewhat honest. Like you don't have to be 100% honest, but just be somewhat honest. Like don't just feed us crap.
Or even something as simple as the draft presser, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a draft presser. We're not going to answer any questions that aren't related to the draft. So you're like, because that's when the Derek Carr questions were coming up, right? Because that was the first time Mickey Loomis had really spoken since the whole Derek Carr news that broke. And it's like, you don't think that the starting quarterback and his injury and maybe him being out doesn't relate to the NFL draft?
And what you're going to do. And even, okay, I can give you that. Fine, you don't want to talk about your quarterback situation right before the draft because you don't want to tip your hand to what's going on.
Sure.
Okay, fine. But on day 3 of the draft, when it's over and I ask you the same questions, why are we still saying we're not going to answer that? And it just creates this, to me, they say they don't want a media circus, but it creates more of one when both sides won't say anything. Or, for example, Carr chooses not to say anything, and that's his right, but has his brother speak for him. And then it's just like this whole weird circus on both sides. And it's just like, why don't, if everything is normal and you're hurt and it's not, and it's all on, up and up, then just have Derek release a statement that says, I injured my shoulder, and the Saints release a statement and say, like, we're aware of it and whatever, and we're working on it, and let's move on. But the silence just, of course, makes people speculate because, your quarterback is getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to play this year. So, I mean, it's not, I'm sure y'all have discussed this a million times and we've all talked about it. So I'm just rehashing what already happened. Right. I just think the silence makes things worse when there are ways to get ahead of that. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it worked for them because now we've moved on to the quarterback battle, right? So I don't know. This is my rambling opinion as a reporter, not understanding sometimes why teams, not just the Saints, just teams in general, do what they do.
No, but
so
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you the Derek Carr situation. In terms of the Saints spectrum and the things that you covered, pre you leaving covering the Bengals and then coming back, where does it rank in terms of like Saints, just drama, weirdness, hierarchy?
I think I was trying to think about this the other week when it was happening. Since I came back, there was a lot of weirdness before.
No, like all together.
Yeah. And I wasn't even thinking Bountygate because that was actually sort of before my time. I was thinking the Jarris Bird weirdness, but that's just like normal weirdness, right? The Brandon Browner weirdness. I
mean, he did threaten to beat reporters.
That was a little weird.
And I was standing right there when that happened, by the way. So. And I tweeted it out. He was not thrilled with me. So that was fun. But you have to, what are your sisters? I'm about to get off track. I'm sorry, but a player is screaming at a reporter in front of you and has to be pushed into the shower by another player. And you're just like, well, I tweeting that, I guess. I've never seen this happen in my life. I don't think I've seen that happen. I've seen players yell at reporters since. There's one time that rivaled that when Adam Jones in Cincinnati was really upset at a reporter for asking questions about his arrest. But surprisingly, it doesn't happen that often. But your original question was one of the weirdest things. I do think that the end of the Carolina game before Dennis Allen got fired, where all the players were on Twitter talking about like
Oh yeah.
how terrible the teams were, and the Panthers started fighting with them about who was worse. That was pretty funny and pretty high up there. But hell, the last 4 years, I guess Peyton stepping down. I mean, that's kind of crazy that happened, right?
Yeah.
I guess I guess people were talking about it as a possibility, but no one actually
Right.
thought that was going to happen. Um, and also, when that happened, my house is like some sort of weird fortress sometimes when it comes to cell phone signals. So if my Wi-Fi stops working for any reason, my cell phone basically doesn't work, and so I can't like connect with the outside world. So
Which would be terrible as a reporter.
it's not great. And so I think I saw or was told, like, Peyton said he's retiring, and then the internet just goes out. And so like I had to like run out of my house and like go get in my car. Yeah, just imagine that during a hurricane, since there's no power, my cell phone service just doesn't work. And so I'd just be sitting in here during like the last hurricane. No connection to the outside world. But yeah, that was funny. Of course, I needed to be in communication with people at that very moment. Just my house was like, never mind.
Is there like a similarity between like the Saints and the Bengals from you remember? Because it seemed like both like kind of mom and pop. They try to run like kind of mom and pop shops, kind of keep things close to the vest a little bit. Small market teams, both of them. Did you recognize like the similarity in kind of the way they ran, or is it just completely different?
Maybe in some ways. The thing is that the Bengals approach their contracts very differently than the Saints, obviously. And the Bengals, the way they explain that is that their team is their income. That is how they make money. So they're saying, so if we want to go sign a quote unquote cheap free agent, undrafted free agent or whatnot, we got to find a way to account for that money in the budget. Where obviously the Saints did not come up building money through the team, so they have other outside investments. And so I think they approach that differently. And I always thought that was interesting. Like the Bengals when I covered them, did not restructure contracts ever. And they actually do now. I feel like COVID changed things a little bit. All the teams kind of had to get on board and do void years and things like that. But they haven't changed in that. And maybe they are similar in the Saints to this way. And if they have a value on a player or a position, like that's kind of it. The Saints do that too, to some extent. Like Marcus Williams, like they, in their mind, they were like, this is the value, we're not paying over that. And that's it. And then they signed two safeties that equaled that one contract. For better or worse, right? Like, was that a great decision? Well, I mean, you got Tyron out of it, but Marcus may barely played. So, I mean, but would it have been better to have Marcus Williams? Well, he went to the Ravens and he had, I think, a good first year there, right? But like, nothing really great after that. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Maybe all these teams aren't really as different as we think they are. But there's just certain things that they approach from like a financial perspective that can be very different.
Right. What was, I know you and was Jeremy Fowler, I think, kind of came together and wrote a really good, really great piece regarding just the whole Derek Carr situation. What was maybe like the most interesting thing for you that you kind of maybe discovered in putting together that column in that article?
Yeah, we kind of on a rush timeline because we wanted to put that out while it was still relevant. And we felt like, later in the summer, people might not have been as interested in the whole situation as they were then. So, it was a lot of trying to see how many answers we could uncover in a very short amount of time, which means trying to convince people to talk. And I will say both sides there's a lot they haven't revealed. And I'm not saying like I'm hiding anything. I mean, truly,
Right.
It's surprising that there is a lot they haven't revealed, and I'm very interested to see what happens, when he actually files his retirement papers, and if there's an amended contract, if I get a hold of that, and like what that looks like. So we sat down, we said we wanted to answer all these questions. And the biggest question is, how did Derek Carr injure himself, and when did the Saints find out about it? And I think, did we just lose Ryan?
Yeah, we did. We could keep going. He'll join
Okay.
back on.
The fact that at least one of the assistant coaches didn't know about Carr's injury when Kellen Moore is now saying that he found out about it in the last week of March. Coincidentally, when Derek Carr reportedly visited the facility when none of the coaches were there. It's all like this weird thing that happened in the last week of March, but they were all on recruiting trips or at pro days. Recruiting trips, but yeah, I guess that's I think one of them called it a recruiting trip. It's now in my head. So they're all gone. And so apparently that's when he visits the facility. Kellen Moore finds out at some point, but then not all of the assistants know.
Right.
But why wouldn't the assistants know? Wouldn't that have been of utmost importance to tell the assistants? And so there's just so many weird layers to this. And it really does seem like both sides were like, okay, here's our settlement. Here's what we're going to say. We're sticking to the statement. And as things do, people will move on because the NFL cycle moves on. And, by the end of training camp, there will have at least 10 more weird NFL stories that will push this further and further behind in the news cycle. So there's still a lot more questions.
Yeah,
I feel
there's a ton of questions. Even
and
there was a great article you and Jimmy Fowler did, because I was waiting on that ex post facto, just give me everything. Like what fill in the blanks.
Favorite type of article.
And it filled in a lot of blanks, but there was still these lingering questions that I just don't know if we'll ever find out. When was this injury from that Giants game? Was that actually there? I know it was reported by Jane Slater. We had her on recently. There was the question about that. It was like I said, it is weirdly, he's been kind of missing since even for the Super Bowl, not New Orleans, even though every player was down there, which is his right. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be down there. But it was just, everything was just weird. And everyone felt like something was coming to a head, and then you just started getting breadcrumb after breadcrumb. Meanwhile, while he's going through all this, him and his brother has a YouTube show where they're test driving cars and talking football.
Right, on the day the voluntary workout started.
Yes, the day of.
Yeah. Which,
no,
they're not
at all.
They're not stupid. So that was weird. And also the timing of it all, it coming 3 days before workout started, and then I think the car thing was the car thing. I think that was posted on the 14th when they all had to report. Or
yes, it absolutely
or
was.
voluntold to report. I guess they don't have to report. But as we put in the article, it's the first time, I believe, that you haven't had a Saints quarterback there during those voluntary workouts since Drew Brees was looking for a new contract in 2012. And then he ended up showing up by either the beginning of training camp or mini camp. And also, he was very clear throughout that entire process back then about why he was doing that and what he was doing. Yeah. So there was no, surprises. So I'd say it's very unusual to not have a quarterback there during these workouts. I mean, especially because it does seem like almost every single player was in attendance.
Yeah. Every social media thing, it was just so telling. It's all these players are there, and it's Derek Carr's not there, and even whatever. I don't want to rehash it. I'm kind of over the whole talking about the Derek Carr thing, honestly. But just to turn the page. But just looking back on it, just the telling thing of just, and we talked about it with I think we talked about it with Jane Slater or talking about with Mike Detillier, just just the fact that Kellen Moore and just Derek Carr just never met was just so telling. Just absolutely so telling.
That was crazy because, even Dennis Allen flew out to go get Michael to try to figure out what was going on with Michael Thomas. And, I mean, this is, I don't want to say why or why not Kellen Moore chose not to do that. Maybe he was told not to do that. And maybe the front office said they'll handle it. I truly don't know. But it just goes into the questions, and it doesn't really make anyone come out looking good in all of this. It's a weird situation. I do think that it's best that they have taken care of this now. I do think it seems like it's good for both sides. And they can move on. I mean, I honestly thought this was going to drag out until mid-June, early July. And then he was going to end up maybe put on IR, something would happen. And, at the same time, you got these young quarterbacks that are trying to win their own jobs. And I just think having the whole Carr issue hanging over their heads would not have been good for them. And so this kind of just, as Kellen Moore said the other day, it's like a blank slate to move forward. But it is bizarre.
It is.
Top 10 bizarre stories. We should do that on the podcast one day.
Oh, man.
But you'd have to narrow it to like the last 20 years.
Were you covering the Saints or the Bengals when the Junior Gillette beach situation happened?
I was covering the Saints. I think that was right before I left. That has to be top 5. Wow.
Easily.
No, it wasn't right before I left. I was at training camp. That was 2015. Actually,
easily.
I wrote like what happened to Junior Gallette's story, and then I'm not gonna lie, as a reporter, there's no better feeling than I showed up to camp. And, I'd already written the story, and so other people were asking Sean Payton about Junior Gillette at the opening press conference at training camp, and he wouldn't answer it. And I'm just sitting there. They were, like, using some of the stuff I wrote in my story, and it's a really nice feeling to, have things where other people try to use that to ask questions. I mean, I do that all the time, and but it's great when you're like, yeah, I had that story. I had that story in the works for a long time. It's crazy how it ended that way, though.
It's an infamous story. That's like it has a lot of lore in Saints Twitter.
It does. It really does.
It does. It's and the picture is like it's become a meme. Anyway, getting back to current Saints, the media was able to see OTAs last Thursday for the Saints. You guys weren't able to see OTAs today, I'm guessing. Probably not, right?
No, we usually see them on Thursday. So we'll be out there Thursday, theoretically. You see one a week.
Okay, so just general, because we are live streaming right now, just general vibes of just maybe that's your first time seeing the OTAs ran by Kellen Moore, the quarterback competition. I guess, do you feel like it actually is going to be a competition between Rattler and Shuck, and just the general vibes that you see or that maybe you got from the OTA that you've got to see on Thursday?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest question we've asked amongst ourselves the last week. Is this a true competition, or is it, Shuck's job to lose? I do think it's Shuck's job to lose, but I don't think that the coaches are looking at it the same way we're looking at it. So we're saying he's a second-round pick. They obviously want to get him on the field as fast as possible. And I think in an ideal world, that's what they do. But I don't necessarily think that the coaches are looking at these two and saying, well, Shuck's a second-round pick. He's already handed the job. I do think, it's a two-player race. I think everyone thinks that. I think Jake Haener is a pretty self-aware and funny guy. I think he knows that. He was like, I know I'm being counted out, but I'm used to that. You want to talk about weird stories? I feel like poor Jake Haener has had something crazy happen every year of his NFL career. Yeah, I feel like he's always has to talk to the media after something weird has happened. But I think it's a true competition. I just think that Rattler has to have a fantastic training camp to unseat Shuck. But, again, that's just me. I'm not I'm not Kellen Moore, so he's probably looking at it with a different viewpoint. But really, at this point, so I'm actually publishing a story tomorrow that kind of details what they want right now. And Doug Nussmeier said it's kind of the 30,000-foot view. They're basically just trying to teach the quarterbacks concepts and general things right now, running the offense, getting in and out of the huddle quickly. I mean, basically fundamentals. And he said that what he wants from them is that, they go through rookie minicamp, OTAs minicamp, and he basically sits down with them, goes over their strengths and weaknesses, and gives them basically homework as to what they need to work on in that. I think they get 3 weeks. They have to report earlier than the vets. So during that 3 or so week break, and yeah, it was interesting listening to them talk about it. They want it to be a competition right away, but they don't want them so focused on the competition aspect of it that they're ignoring that they just right now want them all kind of settling in and getting in the groove of things, because they said a lot. They're like, there's only so many reps right now. We have 7-on-7s, but that's a very small thing. Most of what we're doing right now is in the classroom, which is why when I asked, is this a setback for Jake Hayner, Kellen Moore said it wasn't really. And I don't know. I think with Hayner, I said Rattler needs to have a fantastic camp. I mean, Hayner would have to have the camp of his life to usurp the other two. And I'm not trying to be mean, but
it's just facts.
Yeah. But, I guess Moore is saying, like, because we're so classroom focused right now, he's not really missing that much. It's just unfortunate when a guy's already, like, trying to fight to even get recognized as one of the two potential guys in this race. Other things I was thinking about during OTAs. We kept mentioning again that they probably need to add a taller receiver. The receivers all looked great, but they are all of similar stature. So I think other guys in the room might not be a bad idea. One of the reporters, I think, said they're tiny, and I was like, well, I don't think they'd like to be called short. Shorter. But Shaheed looked great. I know that's already been talked about a million times, but it was really good to see
huge, though.
him out there.
Huge. Yeah,
I thought so too. I thought it was even good to have Foster just out there. He's not, participating yet, but the fact that he's out there, to me, I didn't talk to him in the locker room, but some other people did, and he said either he's on schedule or ahead of schedule, so that's great. The big question is Taysom. What happens with Taysom? That's the other thing that I feel like there are just a lot of questions about, and how he's doing. It kind of feels like a black hole of information. Like it's like this big void of information that no one knows what's going on with Taysom, and other than obviously he had a very bad injury, and hopefully he'll play this year, but I don't know. I do think it's interesting they didn't touch his contract, but they didn't last year until much later either. So
it's just like the shoe. You're just trying to kind of waiting on that shoe to drop. I'm sorry I had to drop off it. My computer just literally crashed out of nowhere. Never done that.
No.
It's like, okay. But I wanted to ask you, since you've seen, been through the Sean Payton OTAs, you've been through the Dennis Allen OTAs, and you got just a little taste of the Kellen Moore OTA. Has anything stood out to you, like just anything? Like anything, like, oh, this is different, or this... anything you expecting to see that you saw or whatever, like just anything stood out to you at all?
I honestly have to think about that. I feel like after a while, it all just becomes kind of a blur. You're so focused on OTAs when it happens, and then you move on to minicamp and then training camp, and then people ask you, what's the difference between this year and last year? And it's hard to come up with a reason or like a big difference because you're just not thinking about it anymore. And so I don't think anything really stood out. I'm sure once I get off this podcast, I'll have a great answer that I should have thought about, but maybe not at this early stage. What I'd like to see is minicamp, and when everyone has to be there. I assume that's when Kamara will show up, and then you're going to get to see, we still don't get to see pads, but you get to see a little more competition and things like that, and that's what I'm excited to see because our OTA session last week was in the indoor facility, which is sometimes kind of difficult as a reporter because things happen like really far away from you. So like Rattler was on the side where we were all standing when he was running with the ones, and Shuck at that time was down the field with the twos, and so it's very hard to keep an eye on both of them. So when they're outside, you can walk around the field and you kind of get a better sense of what's going on, or at least you can move around more. Indoor, it's kind of hard. It's a very weird niche reporter problem. But yeah, I felt like a lot of us were talking a lot about Rattler because we were standing on that side, and obviously people are going to look and talk about the first team. But I did wonder if something like that kind of had any bias about like how day one of OTAs was covered simply because this was what was in front of us.
Right.
I don't know.
I guess my question is, it's super early, right? And this is probably not fair to ask you, and I will preface this by saying that. But how do you potentially see this quarterback competition playing out?
I see Shuck winning it, but that's, again, what I was saying earlier. And from my perspective, I think in an ideal world, they get the second round pick on the field. I also think, though, that, right now, Shuck is doing everything right. I mean, so is Rattler. He has done nothing wrong this year. But I do think that Shuck has very quickly kind of shown the small parts of being a starting quarterback that he understands and gets. Even something as small as, I said this on TV the other day, learning how to deal with the media. That is a small aspect, but it actually can be important.
Huge.
How you present yourself in front of other people. And so far, he's clearly either just good at that part, or he's getting good advice because he's understood how to kind of make himself, I guess, one with the fans. Fans just want someone that wants to be here, first of all. Like they really want you to want to be in New Orleans. And just things like, I hit a pothole the other day or whatnot, like silly things. That's stuff that
one of
look at
us.
the response it got. Like it matters. It matters.
I can't speak to how many times I've seen people that like on draft night was cursing the pick out, like, what the hell, this old quarterback, blah blah blah. Then like after a couple media interviews and stuff like that, they're like, I like Shuck, man. He's all right. It's just that goes a long way. It's just funny how that works. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if someone told him to put his dog next to him on draft night.
Murphy.
I mean, everyone loves a golden retriever. Just stuff like that, though,
Not everyone. KT.
I had a golden retriever growing up, so I would love to have a golden retriever again.
Golden retriever.
My brother has a golden retriever.
Person.
Okay. I thought you were saying specifically you didn't like that dog breed out of other dog breeds. Yeah, they're the best.
I'm sorry.
One day I'll have one again when I have a life.
Sorry.
But yeah. Oh, and also along those lines, inviting his teammates out to go before everything started to go to Tulane and practice together. Very smart. Get your teammates on your side immediately. Get the receivers on your side. Just like that. And
Old man wisdom.
Yeah.
Old man
none
wisdom,
of that means
man.
he's going to win the starting job. But, so far, so good. And the thing is, though, Rattler is a very confident guy. And he's like, last year didn't erase my confidence. While acknowledging last year was very difficult circumstances. I would just draw a line through last year for Rattler, honestly, because I just think it was a very, very tough situation that he got put into. I'm not saying anything everyone else doesn't know, but half the team feels like it's injured. The offensive line's having issues. The coach gets fired. The starting quarterback is hurt twice. I mean, it's just it's hard to say, okay, well, any of that was Rattler's fault. He had flaws that obviously he needs to grow from,
sure.
But I think a lot of quarterbacks would have struggled in that situation.
No question. And on top of that, you're a rookie. Like, you're a rookie quarterback swimming upstream trying to figure out how to do, like, the toughest position in the NFL, like in sports. Like, good luck.
And like no one likes to point this fact out, and I know it's like a little fact, but like of all the teams he played, all of them were playoff teams except for the Raiders. Like he played
Except for the Raiders.
like elite.
Every team was a playoff team.
Yeah.
It's like Tampa Bay, then Broncos on a Thursday night. Good luck.
Yeah, and just like people getting hurt left and right. And also, like, just look at that Green Bay game. The second I saw that Green Bay game on the calendar, before I even knew who was going to be playing quarterback, I was like, they're going to lose that game. That is a incredibly difficult game for a dome team from the South to go play at one of the most difficult venues to play at, and much less have a rookie quarterback trying to figure that out. And so he just, there's certain games you're like, oh, that's going to be tough no matter what. And that Broncos game was always going to be tough because you know how Sean Payton gets about games that he's looking forward to.
Even though it was funny, it was like Sean Payton got to a point in that game where he looked like he started kind of feeling sorry for the Saints. Like, damn, like, this is sad. Like, this is just sad. Like,
I mean, it was. It was right after the Kansas City game, too.
Yeah.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
A week and a half later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, sure was.
Yeah. Like, good luck.
Yes, it was. Sorry, I'll let Ryan go.
Oh no, I was just saying. I mean, with the quarterback competition, I'm really interested to see just like how much is going to go into like actually like this guy is going to help me win versus this is my guy. Like, this is my guy, Tyler Shuck. We drafted him. This is the guy I pinpointed. Like, what I'm just it's just going to be so interesting to see how it plays out, especially with the preseason. You got a joint practice with the Chargers and all that stuff. Because, like, I mean, it's not like whoever starts week one has to be, like, the starter for the rest of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could change week to week. The schedule is brutal to start the season.
Woo.
It's like, do you want to throw a rookie out there week one? You got the Cardinals. Then you got what? Who's week two? I can't even remember.
The
Niners.
The Niners.
The Niners. Niners week two.
I think it's Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, Bills. Because having to go to Seattle and then having to go to Buffalo is just mean. That's just mean. But the rest of the schedule, though, well, it's in September, so at least there's that. But the rest of the schedule, I think, though, isn't so like diabolical like I thought it was last year. It's the Green Bay game. I was just like, that's just that's just mean.
That's the L.
Why would you do that? But it's funny though. Colin Saunders, out of everyone, is still very, very mad they don't have primetime games. I was talking to him about it in the locker room last Thursday, and he's still. It's like
Let me shut up, Eagles.
Yeah. Hey, he had like the most interesting play of the game against the Chiefs. You name one other interesting play that happened in that game.
There was the Derek Carr. There was the Derek Carr throwaway pass. That was pretty interesting to me, anyway. Bombs away to the sideline.
That's how you define interesting, I guess.
Hilarious. Like, we got a good laugh. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Besides quarterback aside, what are the other interesting elements of this team, offense, defense, that are interesting to you, or just see how it plays out?
I guess the thing that more than anything prevents me from thinking that this is going to be a good season for the team is that they do have some exciting young defensive players, but I think that the core of the defense is old, and I don't know how you fix that. I don't know how you work around that. And I guess this is one observation from OTAs that I forgot. Is that I was watching Cam Jordan because Cam Jordan is always he's always like the happiest guy in the room to be at practice, which, in year, 15 or so, it's kind of refreshing to see. Like, he still enjoys his job as
Right.
much as anything. But he was also, granted, Chase Young was not at OTAs during that session, but he was very involved in the defense. And so you're looking at him and kind of saying, okay, they didn't just bring him back to bring him back because they need to deal with the cap issues and they're not ready to part ways with the captain. That might be an indication he's still going to be a very big part of the defense. So I'm wondering how that's going to shake out and who's going to end up primarily playing defensive end or outside linebacker, I guess. And are they going to have to work around some of these age issues with not only Cam, but DeMario is 36 and Tyron is younger, but not getting any younger. Actually, as Saunders said the other day, we were talking about old people, and he's like, yeah, you're 32 in the NFL and you're old, but then you start coaching and you're Kellen Moore and you're young again because you're retired. Because Kellen Moore is 36 and young, but Saunders is actually only 28, but people are calling him the old guy. But it is funny how DeMario's old, but Kellen Moore is young, but they're the same age.
Right, that is kind of funny.
Isn't it funny how we do that? But it doesn't take away from the issue of is this defense going to be able to work around some of those potential issues because you can't keep these guys young forever. And offensively, I guess you kind of wonder, are they going to be able to keep their best players healthy? Do they have enough playmakers? Just there are a lot of fundamental questions I have about this team in this season, but I have said I think the biggest goal is to have positive momentum. The biggest goal, this is not their biggest goal. This is what I think is their biggest goal, is to have positive momentum going into 2026, no matter how the season goes. If it's a total disaster, then maybe you're going into 2026 with a high draft pick and you're going to take a quarterback high and people are excited about that. Or maybe these quarterbacks show you something and you head into 2026, like, okay, that season was bad, but we're still in the process of revamping because they're probably going to have to part ways with some of these older guys next year. And so then you'd be moving forward with younger guys. So, that's my rambling way of saying, like, they probably don't need to have the greatest season to get the fan base back on board as long as they show they're going somewhere and not just stagnant. Like last year was stagnant.
Yeah, me and Adam, we always bring up like the Dan Campbell's first year with the Lions. I think they won 4 games, maybe. But you could still see like, they're bad, but like, man, if they get some talent on there, they're gonna be something. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see that they're fighting hard, they're playing well, and stuff like that. So I think if they, like the Saints show, if Kellen Moore can show like he could cook on offense, like he's that guy on offense, he could get the most out of quarterback, that alone is worth so much. You could really get a lot out of both Spencer or Shuck, that would make so much. And, dealing with all the, I don't want to say lack of talent, but with, they do need some juice on offense.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So if you could like, get something out of Devin Neal and maybe one of Bub Means, one of those guys that are kind of afterthoughts right now for everybody, and get something out of them, like it'll mean a lot. And defensively, I mean, it's just like you said, it's the age of the defense. It's a new defense, so it's like who knows. I guess what I was wondering, one thing I've been asking people is like, how likely is it for the Saints to be picking number 1 overall next year? Like,
that's a great question.
I was just thinking about that. Like, I was looking at all the other teams, and I guess the Titans can still possibly get there, but maybe Cam Ward gives them a bump. It's like maybe the Browns back up there again. They pick number 2. I was like, man, the Saints are kind of right there in that mix. They're in that mix of that top 5.
But then they always win too many games.
Always.
And that frustrate people. I'm
Usually,
never in
but
that
that's like
crowd
the
that I'm not
past.
an intentional tanking person at
Oh, neither
all,
me.
but it is
No.
funny how the Saints continually frustrate the fan, like the portion of the fan base that wants them to have a better draft pick, and then they end up with
And
like 9,
and
14,
and this
11, or
year
whatever.
and this past year was funny because they like only won 5 games but picked ninth
Ninth.
ninth overall.
Ninth.
And
Ninth.
this is terrible,
But the
terrible luck.
Chargers had the same amount of won games the season before and picked fifth.
Yeah. They would probably have to win only 2 games, right, to pick number one. And
Or
are they
3.
gonna be that bad? I see them more as like a 6-ish win team, and like
5 or 6. Yeah.
that's not
Five or
gonna.
six. Yep.
I think there's also just so many unknowns because I don't think anyone really knows what kind of coach Kellen Moore is going to be. I think
Right.
people's biggest questions with Kellen Moore is, okay, can he lead a room? And when things get tough, are the players
Yep.
going to listen to him?
Yeah.
100%.
Does the quieter type personality work? It does on some teams, but
Yeah.
the biggest, I think one of the biggest or most difficult parts of being a coach is managing personalities, and a lot of coaches cannot do it. You focus so much
Yeah.
on, is he an X's and O's coach? Can he manage games? Can he do this? If you can't control 60 personalities, like what are you doing? And it honestly,
Done.
not even 60. Yeah, every team has what, like 5 vitally important players that they need to be on your side, or else
Yeah.
you're just going to struggle. And Peyton was just obviously an alpha personality, so he was able to control things that way. And so now we're kind of in the total opposite. I guess, I don't know, maybe Dennis Allen was in the middle. I mean, Rizzy would be more the alpha personality type.
Yeah.
And you'd hear some players say Dennis Allen was really hard on them when he was a position coach. But then last year, I've got players telling me that everything is lax. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, what happened?
What happened?
Right. So is he a guy, like, was he in the middle? So I don't know. It's big question mark. A lot's going to hinge on Kellen Moore, but also, like, the talent of the team is only going to take him so far. So he's going to have to come up with some creative ways to win games if there ends up being a drop off with some of these players.
I think the one thing that someone wanted me to ask is, it's regards, we talked about at the beginning, like, do you ever, I don't know, feel a certain way? Because it does feel of like maybe during the press conferences how like you're spoken to or maybe disregarded feels like a certain, like, it's different than like other media people, of like, is it like do you feel like it, like, does it like, do
I
you
don't
feel
think
like
so.
it's no, like, do you feel like it's like specifically maybe like because of your questions, like, is it like,
I mean, they might
point?
know I'm gonna ask something that's gonna be frustrating, and so I don't. When Peyton was the coach at the beginning, Peyton did not like me, so shocking, right? And so we had to figure that out, and we moved past that. But even years then, other reporters would say, he has a different tone with you. I didn't see it, because I thought Peyton was kind of like that with everyone. Well, not everyone. If Peyton really didn't like you, I feel like that was obvious. But I there's some reporters, like, I saw at the podium, he bullied more than he bullied me. I don't even think bullied's the right word, but it's kind of funny. Like, and we all took our turns, taking the hits or whatever. Hard to get a read with Kellen Moore because so many of these press conferences have been just a few people having to ask, like, what's going on with Derek Carr? What's going on with these injuries? What's going on with
It's for
this?
sure,
What's going on with that?
it was more Mickey related. It had nothing to do with Kellen.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't think Mickey wanted any of us asking Derek Carr questions at that press conference, but I think he understood that we were going to do it. I'm pretty sure he, realized that's what I was going to ask. But so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he may have. I didn't go back and really listen until other than transcribing it. So maybe he did have a tone. Are you talking about the draft
Yeah.
press conference or like
All of
the
them. All
yeah.
of them. Every person.
All of
Every
them.
Yeah, I was just
Just
thinking coach
all
wise.
of them.
We only talk to Mickey at the podium a couple times a year, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess it
Like our
just depends on
people,
the week.
like our listeners, like our fans, they listen closely.
Yeah,
Like they
Closely.
pay
y'all are
attention to everything. So, hey,
eagle-eyed listeners.
they really are. They really are. Matter of fact, we've been screaming about, hey, they need to put more mics in the,
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
towards
I
the
know.
media.
I have heard that. On the plus side, though, if I ask something really stupid, then people can't hear what I asked. So not not bad for me. It's surprising because in the media room, I think they put mics in the ceiling. So um, I'm
Oh,
surprised that it's such an
Do they
issue.
really? Like from the top?
I think that when they redid it, they had like built-in mics because I remember actually the opposite thing. I went and I was in the other room while someone was talking one day to work on my computer, and I could like hear every question perfectly. And I was like, "Is there microphones in there? Do I need to watch what I say when I'm just hanging out in that room?" Can you imagine
Uh
if someone just had to spend their day like listening to what reporters have to talk about all day? It's not interesting. It's like
no.
90% are jobs and then like
okay.
2%
This is
something else.
this is completely off base, and I told Ryan that like maybe we're gonna get try to get Courtney on the podcast. But okay,
Oops.
so did you go to the women's of Indy event
Yeah.
at the combine?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't see you. But after
It was
that,
like that room was so crowded.
so crowded.
I
It was
it was
hectic.
hard to find people.
I was there, and then afterwards, like Courtney makes her post on X and whatever, and so I post like me and Greg Rosenthal and Jordan Rodriguez are there and what have you, and then like in my great, and I want to tell Courtney the story to like get her reaction. Like in my great like triumph, I set like support fucking women, right?
Hmm. Oh God, it took me a second to even. I was just like, okay, cool,
Right, cool, right, great.
I was like, cool.
Did not realize at all. And then someone like one of our listeners was like, yeah. And I was like,
It's my face right now. Did you keep it
but
up?
of course, because they started doing numbers, Kat. Like I couldn't take it down.
You should
And
have put like commas in between or something. I don't know. I
nope,
don't know how you fix that.
Oh, dot,
nope,
I don't know.
nope. So like in this great tweet about like supporting women and everything, my
That's
contribution
awesome.
to this whole thing, and I texted Jordan Rodriguez about this. Literally, is me. Like the last fucking thing you see is support fucking women.
I
There you go.
bet Courtney would find this hilarious. I'm gonna tell
She
her.
she liked it on Twitter, so
Yeah, I probably liked it
mean,
too. And obviously, I didn't pick up on it because I was like, "What? Where's the story going?"
now you know.
Well, the number of dumb things I've tweeted are just exponential. So
There you go. Anything else Saints related? Oh, one thing I want to ask you. Since you are a LSU fan, we were talking about this prior to the podcast.
you can see with a helmet in the background.
Of course, sicko.
It's actually my brother's from like 20 or 30 years ago. It looks nice though.
It does. Thoughts on Garrett Nussmeier going into the season, and do you think that he is justifiably being talked up as a top 5 pick going into the 2026 NFL draft?
Ooh, I haven't even really started thinking about LSU football yet. It's LSU baseball season, the time that we're all pretend
Nope.
super baseball fans. I am an LSU baseball fan, but I'm a terrible fan this year. I feel like someone said that months ago, and or they were just saying like, oh, he's going to be a really high pick, and I was like, are you just? I mean, that could have been during the season, and I was just like, really, you think that? And just from like what we'd seen at the time, and that may have been so long ago. I don't even know what year they were referring to, like, or what draft, but I don't know. What are the other, like, who would the other potential top quarterbacks be in this draft class? Because
Seller
I'm not
from
like, I think that, yeah.
South Carolina, Drew Aller
Yeah.
from Penn State,
Penn State, yeah.
Clemson,
The Clemson
Cade.
I don't
kid.
know. I think
Yeah,
things can change.
right.
Things can change so fast. And that, me saying that was not me saying, he's a bad quarterback or anything. I guess I was surprised at, how much that person, like, already was looking at him as a top draft prospect, because I still think he's
Yeah.
got a long way to go. Um,
Mhm.
and yet, you look at someone like Jaden Daniels, and he was able to just have this amazing season and just
Yeah.
immediately translate that into the NFL. Which, to the point where he surprised me with how good he was as a rookie that
Oof.
fast. And
It's
so,
unbelievable.
yeah, I know. Like, I hoped he'd have success, but he had such a great rookie season. So, I think that Nuss has a lot of potential, and I think it's there. And maybe at the end of the year, he is a top draft prospect. I think that a lot of people don't believe that Arch is going to come out next year. Obviously,
Yeah.
that would be the one everyone's talking about. But with
Oh,
the way that Mannings operate, I don't think they're in any hurry. Um,
None.
so, I think LSU, though, they have these tough season openers, and they're going to have to get off to a better start than they did last year. So that's going to be a big test. What is that? Is that 3 months away?
Yeah.
The end of
yeah.
August.
Yeah.
I saw Schefter posted we have like 100 days to the NFL season starts today, and I was
100.
just thinking, how already? So that means what? 90 days to
90 days.
LSU, 80, something like that.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers, but
It moves so fast.
Quick.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
I won't be at that Clemson game, but I'm sure I'll be watching somewhere frustrated if they if they blow it. Can't wait for the season.
Wolf, anything more for Cat?
No, that's it. I got nothing else.
You're like, I'm done with that. I'm like sniffling for some reason.
No, you're good. But no, we appreciate you coming on, joining us, talking Saints, a little LSU. We got we can make this happen. So, and glad.
Oh,
like
are y'all at OTAs on Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have OTA updates on Thursday. Katherine Terrell of ESPN, esteemed ESPN beat writer.
Get it right.
Esteemed. I'm gonna start calling myself that from now on.
You should.
Esteemed beat writer. No,
Esteemed
seriously,
indeed.
guys, thanks for having me on. Y'all, it's always a ton of fun talking with y'all, and hopefully, pretty soon we'll have actual stuff to talk about versus like the ghosts of quarterbacks past. Talk about the ghost of
The
quarterbacks future. Yeah.
Yeah.
future.
Honestly,
I can't
it
wait.
will be fun.
Exciting. Yeah.
I was thrilled to cover the Jameis and Taysom quarterback battle because we so rarely get that, and it kind of gave you this sense every day you got to go into practice and talk about something new. And sometimes training camp can get monotonous, but that actually truly was fun. And the fact that all these guys are 26 or younger and have so much ahead of them, I think that's really exciting. And whoever
absolutely.
wins or doesn't win, maybe they go on to have success somewhere else too. And so I don't know. I'm excited.
And you're like 1 year away from not having to write the how do Saints get 80 million under the cap? Like,
I don't know.
You're like a year away. Then you're free for a little while.
I don't know. I think they're. Yeah, I mean, I guess Carr did them a favor in that and how they can manage the cap next year instead of just eating all of it at once. But I remember before Carr retired, I kept telling people, I'm like, they're actually way tighter up against the cap next year than you think. Not like it has been in the past at all.
I mean, like 2 years away, not 2 years, because next year I think they might probably be like 30 or 40 million over.
Yeah,
Then like 2027.
He'll go pay a pass rusher like $20 million, and
Exactly.
I
Who
don't know.
knows?
Hey,
There's a
that's
whole
just
other there's a
yeah.
whole conversation of like if they get rid of void years in the next couple of years that the NFL guard could talk. That's a whole other conversation.
Well,
Was that part of the salary cap discussion? I haven't read the details of that, but wow, that would
it
make things
seems
a
like,
lot less fun.
oh yeah, it seems
What
like
would I
that's
write
something
about?
they're kind of looking at.
What
Yeah.
would I write about? I just release all of my spreadsheets into the wild, never to be seen again.
Please. Just load them up.
Katherine, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, KT.
Yeah.
Follow Katherine on Twitter, Instagram, everything. I'm sure you already have. If you're a listener, we appreciate you.
Of course.
Follow all her work, and we'll be back. Don't know when we'll be back, but we appreciate you. We'll be back. We love our listeners. Please like and subscribe. And with that, we are out.
Peace.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.